Bum ba da dum. Howdy y'all, Banjo Ben here, and I'm actually out in Missouri at my general store, Banjo Ben's general store, where I have all of my instrument and accessory inventories. We're located in Southwest Missouri, in Exeter, and today's lesson is going to be something that I wish someone would have shared with me whenever I was first starting to play mandolin. And actually, I played mandolin for several years before I really learned about some of these products and advantages that we have. So today we're going to do an overview of what I call just essential mandolin accessories. And I'll put a caveat with that essential because some of them you don't absolutely have to have, but there are things that I recommend. I also want to just tell you, honestly, this is not a sales video, even though, of course, I have all this stuff available at the general store. I'm not telling you these things so that you'll go and buy them, especially not just buy them from me. But I do have them available, and there's something that you should consider as a mandolin player. Of course, the first thing you need is a mandolin, so I just want to cover briefly the two main styles of mandolin. Then we're going to look at accessories that kind of fit onto your mandolin, so straps, tuners, things like that. We'll talk picks for a little bit. We'll talk strings. We're going to talk actually about storage and care for your mandolin too, so that by the time you get finished watching this, you'll have and know everything that you need to know to be a well-equipped mandolin player, whether you're traveling with your instrument or even if you're just keeping it in your music room at home. If you're watching somewhere like YouTube or Facebook, I would love to have a like, a follow, a subscribe, share this with your mandolin picking buddy. If you're watching this here at banjobenclark.com, thank you for being a Gold Pick member. And as you know, you have access to hundreds more mandolin lessons, as well as banjo and guitar. Okay, let's jump right into this. Now, in every category of accessories that we're going to look at here, I'm going to say that we have a more detailed video or tech tip that we've published on each of these. So I'm going to kind of do a flyover of all these things. This will give you a great introduction and an overview to these things. But if you want to dive more into any of these particular things, make sure and check out my tech tips or product showcases on my YouTube channel. Okay, now as far as the actual mandolin goes, there are two main models of mandolins. You hear people refer to mandolins as either an F style, sometimes they say F model, or an A style mandolin. And what they're referring to primarily is the shape of the actual mandolin. So this is an F style mandolin. This is an A style mandolin. And when you look at them, you can tell the obvious difference with the scroll that we have here. They often have different peg head shapes and such. Sometimes they have different kinds of holes, F holes cut in the top of the mandolin. But for all intents and purposes, they're both mandolins, and they both work great for bluegrass and country and gospel and all those various genres. It ultimately comes down to just what you prefer. A lot of times just aesthetics, the way that you hold it, the way that you feel it. F-style mandolins are traditionally more used in bluegrass, but you know, one thing that's I think a misconception out there is that F-style automatically means that it's better. It simply does not. I have a comparison video where I demonstrate that. They are different, but the sound chamber that an F-style and an A-style have are similar in volume, similar in volume space-wise, but also volume audible-wise. And it ultimately just comes down to what you prefer. And I've played some A-style mandolins that I love, and of course F-style, which I generally play, is just what I personally prefer. But it's not because of anything inferior with these. Now, as we think about the things that we're going to put on our mandolins, that's where it's going to oftentimes matter whether or not you have an A-style or an F-style, but not all the time. So in our first little segment here, what I want to do is just showcase for you a few of the things that I think are, I am going to call them essentials because of how greatly they affect your tone and the sound of the quality of your instrument, right? So the first thing that I'd like to introduce to you is something called a tone guard. And a tone guard is definitely a luxury item. You know, they run about $70 or $80. And I remember seeing these years ago and seeing some pros like Ricky Skaggs playing them and thinking, is this a gimmick? But it's absolutely not a gimmick. And I can even demonstrate for you right now how it is not a gimmick. I do have another video more fully explaining this. But the purpose of this little device, this metal device, is to provide some separation between the back of the mandolin and your belly, okay, or whatever you're wearing, a jacket or whatever. Because when we play mandolin, we're generally holding it against our body. The back of the mandolin is very, very important in its resonance of how loud the mandolin is and also its tone. So whenever you press it against something like a shirt or a belly, it's going to muffle that mandolin. So what a tone guard does is it fits on. It's not recommended for soft varnish instruments, but for all the others, it's totally safe. It's got these little rubber footings here on the mounting pieces, and it just easily slides right over the back of the mandolin, providing just a little bit of margin between the back of the mandolin and your belly, so that it holds it off of your stomach just a little bit. Let me give you just a quick A-B with this. I know that you'll be able to hear it, although I do have other videos. But here's the mandolin played without the tone guard. Now, rather than put the tone guard on, I'm just going to hold it away from my belly, and I want you to hear the same thing. Can you tell the difference in the tone and volume? Put it back against my belly. Pull it out. Okay, so it's a worthy investment. This particular tone guard, it will fit both an F or an A-style mandolin. They do make a right hand and a left hand version, but I have to say, I'm a right-hander, but I have a left-hand version on my mandolin. You just have to kind of position it just a little bit different. So if we're out of right hands and all we have is left hands, you can buy that and it'll work on a right-hand mandolin. Particularly helps with your chop and the sustain or the wanted sustain in your chop. Moving further in the actual tone of your instrument, I also highly recommend a very cheap investment with these harmonic suppression grommets. We sell a lot of these. Neither one of these mandolins come from the factory with these grommets installed. A lot of your higher end mandolins like Northfield and such will have these installed. But the purpose of these, and I have a whole video on how to install them, but the purpose of these is to kill the unwanted overtones in your mandolin. So you actually take these little rubber grommets and you put them in between the pairs of your strings, between your bridge and your tailpiece. Because what ends up happening is that this little stretch of strings from here to here will end up vibrating, creating some sound, and those are tones that you generally do not want. So these just simply muffle. What you'll also see on some higher end tailpieces that flip up, this is a stationary tailpiece, but on some of your tailpieces, you'll lift them and they'll have a piece of felt or a piece of leather or a piece of cork underneath there, and it does the same purpose. Whenever you shut that tailpiece, it muffles these strings and kills those overtones that are not wanted. So I highly recommend that you pick up some of these grommets. They're just a couple bucks for a whole package, and they'll last forever. This is not an essential, but it's something that I love on my mandolin, and that's an armrest. So some of your mandolins, again, are going to come with an armrest from the factory, but if not, we have several different models. This is by Cumberland Acoustic. We also have some made by Dr. Arm, which are really high quality, super great mandolin armrests. They install very easy. They don't damage your mandolin at all. If you install it correctly, it just simply clamps onto your mandolin. It has a little turning tension tool there that you can tighten it down. You don't have to over tighten it. And it really makes a difference in your forearm coming over the sharp edge of that mandolin. You know, depending on your mandolin's construction, some are less comfortable than others, but not an essential, but one that I would recommend you checking out, particularly if you're playing sitting down a lot and maybe your position of your mandolin's putting more pressure on your arm than what normally would be there. These really help with that. Moving on to some other things that we might classify as attaching to your instrument would be a strap. So a lot of times when people start playing their mandolins, they don't buy a strap. They don't think about the need for that. But there will come a time, hopefully, where you're going to play with other people and play in a setting where you're standing up. And so there are lots of different strap options out there. Let's talk about the F-style mandolin first. The most common way to affix a strap on an F-style is with a strap like this Lakota here that has a loop end on one end. And then on the other end, we have a tail pin slotted area, right? So most all your mandolins will come like a guitar with an end pin that this will fit on. And then we take this looped end of the strap here and fit it inside the scroll on the S-style mandolin. Very, very easy install. Some people prefer that they attach their strap, even the S-style mandolins, up here at the headstock in some way, okay? So this particular mandolin strap, I guess you could do that. It might get a little short for you. We have the measurements there on the site, but you could slip this underneath the strings behind the nut and put this on down here and attach it more like, well, just like you see there. When it comes to the A-style mandolins, you have a couple different options. This type of strap's not really going to work for you unless you wanted to put it again behind the nut there. But what most people do is they will take a strap like this. This is another Lakota strap. And this one's has a slotted end on it where you can feed the tail of the mandolin strap through the slot to create your own loop. And they will often put it either on the headstock or run it underneath the cantilevered part of the fingerboard so that it grips around the mandolin like that. I don't prefer that. I don't prefer that any material, just like with the purpose of the tone guard, with any material muting and touching any portion of my mandolin, especially the top, that's going to affect your tone and volume. So what I recommend for an A-style strap solution is, what if you buy from us or if you buy from somebody else, is that you request a strap button be installed on the heel of the mandolin neck. And then we have other mandolin straps that have the end pin ends, the holes on both sides of the mandolin strap, so it can easily fit there and fit here, and your solution is solved there for your straps. One other thing to mention before we move on to a couple other categories is that you are going to need a tuner. There are lots of different options for a tuner, but I have a couple here that I highly recommend. Maybe the most common tuner out there these days, very affordable. They have rechargeable options or batteried options. This is called a snark tuner. It'll clip anywhere, most prominently on the headstock of your mandolin. Easy to see, low light situations. And the reason why these kinds of tuners are great versus like a tuner that you might have on your phone or some other kind of microphone enabled tuner is that this will pick up the vibrations of your instrument even when when you're in a noisy atmosphere, right? So you have a lot of ambient sound. This will still pick up the notes on your mandolin, and you can tune in a noisy environment. Here's a D'Addario microviolin tuner that works great for mandolin. It just is on a clamp, kind of a spring clamp there, and you can put that on your headstock, or it's made to go on the body actually of a violin, and it would work on a mandolin as well. So it's something to consider. Okay, I think we've covered everything that we would want to put on our mandolins. So next I want to talk about picks and strings, and we're going to talk about cases and other storage things that we need to be thinking about and how to take care of our instruments. Let's continue talking about picks and strings, and this is a topic that could take us all day. I won't give you tons of information, just a brief overview. But when it comes to picks and strings, there's lots of variance in material, in string gauges, and when it comes to picks, in your material and the shape of the pick, the thickness of the pick. Let's start with picks. I've got a couple of different options here. One was just going to be a traditional triangle pick that most everybody starts out with. It's the guitar pick or mandolin pick shape that most often comes to mind when you first start playing. What's become very popular these days is more of a rounded style, or might be called like a triangle style pick. Here's a Golden Gate version, and here's another version from Blue Chip Pick. If you're interested in learning more about those, we have lots of information videos about flat picks. But the thing that you need to just be thinking about is what shape is best for me and what thickness is best for me. I have a type of pick on the website called JT's Picks that are extremely cheap. I think they're like 99 cents a piece, and they come in all different shapes and a couple different thicknesses. That's a really good place to start if you're just wanting to explore, because you won't invest a lot of money. You can go there and buy 6 or 7 or 8 different varieties for $6 or $8 and decide which shape fits me best, which thickness do I like best. And then you could invest more in what we call a boutique pick, like this blue chip pick, which, yes, run 35, 40 and upward dollars for a single pick. You may think that that's silly right now, and I would have agreed with you a few years ago before I spent a lot of time with them. There comes a point where you just want to invest in things like that, and they do make a difference. They really do. Let me go ahead and give you kind of an audible demonstration of that. So this is a thin pick, just a cheap nylon Herco triangle, or I'm sorry, just a teardrop pick. And I find that when most people start playing mandolin or guitar, they usually go toward a floppier, thinner pick. And the reason is it's easier to hold. Okay, and it makes sense to start with something like that. What you'll find is that you'll eventually gravitate toward a thicker pick, and I'll show you why. So I'll just play a little bit with this thin pick. To a little bit stiffer, thicker pick, playing the same way. Listen to the difference in tone. So what do you notice is that this has a smoother, softer, in some ways, more silky tone. And so your thinner picks, you're going to get a lot of your string noise included, and you're going to get that flop sound of the pick bending from the strings, then popping back. So over time, you should kind of gravitate toward a stiffer pick. I'll give you a sound sample of this blue chip, which is even a bit thicker, and it has a rounded edge and 2 pointed edges. So you'll even find over time as you play that you'll come to prefer even the shapes of the pick edges that you play with. Well, that sounds great on this Eastman 515. Very cool. Also, Tone Slabs make some really good ones. There's lots of great boutique pick choices out there. But that's something that you just got to explore with. Your thicker picks, and when I say thicker, I mean like 1 millimeter and beyond in thickness. They're going to feel really weird at first. It's going to be harder to hold, but you'll get used to them over the time, and you'll come to like that tone that it provides better. When it comes to strings, goodness, lots of options out there. I've just have a few here just to kind of give you a survey. There's many different alloys that you can find out there. I don't know what these Eastman comes with from the factory, but it's probably something very similar to the D'Addario EJ74s, which is just a phosphor bronze, very common. Also have here a nickel bronze alloy that's going to get a different sound, and it's going to sound different determined by what kind of mandolin you have and how you play. So this is part of the experimentation that's fun, is just going through several different kinds of strings as you change your strings to see what you prefer for your particular mandolin. There's also coated options. So you've maybe heard of Elixir strings with guitar. They were one of the first coated options out there. Now people like D'Addario make coated options too. And so for your wound strings, your G and D strings, they're going to have a thin coating on them that just preserves that string life over time. But they're going to have a little different sound whenever you first put them on. So some people prefer to have the longer life that a coated string offers. Some people, they don't think it's worth it by how it changes the sound when you first put the string on. So I go back and forth myself, but there are options. Your coated strings are generally more expensive, just to keep that in mind. Okay, so I think that's a good overview of just pick types, string types. You have an opportunity to experiment. And the good thing is that you can do that for not much money, right? Mandolin strings are generally going to run you $7 to $12 a set. Not bad. And these picks you can try out for just $1 a piece or so, and then decide what you might want to invest in going down the road, or go to jams, go to bluegrass festivals, ask people if you can try their picks. They'll be nice to you, and see what you like. Okay, let's now turn our attention toward how to care and store and travel with our instruments. Let's talk about things that help you care and store and travel with your instrument. Whenever you bought your mandolin, it may or may not have come with a case. But eventually, if you're going to take your mandolin anywhere, you're going to want a casing. There's lots of options there and a big spectrum of investment amounts that you can make, right? But starting on the cheaper end, and a great option would be something like this soft case from Eastman. This usually comes with most of the Eastman mandolins that we sell here at the store. But we also sell them individually, either from Eastman or other companies. So this is a padded soft case. It's going to fit both an F style and an A style. It's just zipper closed. Most of them have backpack straps. These work really great for most all applications, all right? So if you're going to actual travel and put it in the back of a car in a trunk or back of a van, have other things, of course you wouldn't want to do this. If you're going to fly with it, if you're confident you're going to get it onto the plane with you in the overhead, this could be a good option. But if you're not sure, you're definitely going to want to go with a hard shell case. There's all kinds of hard shell case options. I've got a new one here that we just started carrying that I wanted to showcase. This is by Gator, and this is called the Gator Journeyman. And it, again, universally fits an A style or an F style. Really classy case, blue interior, but several different options there on the website that you can check out. If you have any questions about that, you can always call us, tell us what you got, and we'll help you make that decision with the budget that you particularly have. But no case is indestructible. Even your $1,500 flight cases by people like Hoffy and Calton, they still will be damaged if abused hard enough. All right, so depending on what kind of things you're going to be doing with your instrument might determine how much you want to invest there. Now, when you're at home, I usually don't keep my mandolin in a case, not the main one that I'm playing. I usually hang it on the wall or put it in an instrument stand. Something like this Hercules stand works great. Hercules also makes some wall mounts that I have in my studio back home. Whenever I'm traveling, this is a really great option because it fits right in the suitcase or in my backpack. This is a Cooper stand. It works for both guitar, mandolin, or for banjo. They might have a separate banjo model, but this works great. It folds up and fits right in this box. And there's several options kind of like this, but Cooper stand makes one of my favorites there. So I recommend that. When it comes to actually keeping your instrument in your case, particularly if you live in drier climates where you're using gas heat in your home and you have low humidity environments where you keep your instrument, you need to think about humidifying over those fall and winter months. We have a couple of options there. They go actually inside your case. So it may be a good idea, depending on where you live, to keep your mandolin in your case when you're not playing it. D'Addario makes a couple of different options here that are really easy. The Humidipack automatically keeps your case at a certain humidity point with the moisture packs that they include. They also have this small instrument humidifier that you actually put water in and put that inside your instrument case to keep it in that 40 to 60% humidity range that you're looking for. I've never had a mandolin crack due to humidity conditions. I have had guitars crack due to dry conditions, and I know that mandolins will do it too. So just keep that in mind as you're storing your mandolin. In my particular studio at home, I don't want to be putting all my instruments up in cases, so I have a large room humidifier, more of a commercial size, that holds several gallons of water, and it will maintain my my studio in the 40s, which is about as low as you want to let it go in the wintertime. And then for actual care of your mandolin, cleaning of your mandolin, we sell all kinds of different products here, but here are a couple of my favorites. Just any kind of cleaning cloth that's safe for your particular finish of your mandolin, and we have those notated on the product pages. And then here's a great just all-around cleaner and polish, Dunlop 65. It's safe for most all surfaces, and so it's just a good safe way to wipe down both the hardware and the wood on your instrument. I never hardly do that. I love the grit and the grime that builds up on my instrument over time, but every once in a while I'm forced to do that. There'll be enough spit and Kool-Aid drippings and whatever else on there that will force me to clean it. But I hope that you've enjoyed this this presentation overview of mandolin essentials, I'll call them, some of them more essential than others. And I think I've covered just about everything. If there's something that I haven't covered that you prefer, that you like, just drop it in a comment, either here on the forum if you're watching as a Gold Pit member. If you're watching somewhere else, just drop it on the comment beneath the video. And if we can help you with anything here at the General Store, we're always available. You can shoot us a message, shoot us an email, or you can give us a call at 833-BANJO-BEN.